So social media allows us to level the playing field. I agree with that, the way you split up kind of the population, right? Of the amount of people who support us, who are ardent Zionists, the people who hate us, and the people who are in the middle. I'm never trying to convince the people who hate us. That's not what we're doing.
Russell Robinson, when I interviewed him, in full disclosure, the CEO of JNF, he's a client, full disclosure, but he says engaging with the haters just gives them more eyeballs and views and more things. Not just not worth your effort, but it could actually be counterproductive. We use such a positive story. What are your thoughts on that?
There have been some cases whereby, haters have reformed. There was a guy by the name of Adam Elayan, who was at Tufts University, member of Students for Justice in Palestine, fiercely anti-Semitic, huge record of anti-Semitic, social media activity. He reached out to us, and when we were finally sure that he was, coming with the right attitude, we hooked him up.
Reached out with what? I'm sorry. What did he say?
He wanted to make good on the kind of anti-Semitic tweets he'd put out as a teenager once he'd grown up a bit. And he wanted to publicly apologize. And so we needed to check that he was, for real. And so we then hooked him up with one of our Arab educators by the name of Hussein Abu Bakr. Hussein is an Egyptian dissident who was jailed in Egypt for trying to learn Hebrew and found amnesty in the United States. He works with us as an educator, and he met with Adam, as did some people from our legal division, and we were able to create a platform for him to basically say sorry and set the record straight. Now, that rarely happens, but when it does happen, it's excellent. That's not the bulk of our focus. And by the way,
what's the ripple effect? Sorry, before you change topics, what's the ripple effect on that?
I think we don't know. I think that
is that right? I'm curious. Like, how many of their followers, maybe question, I don't expect them to turn over, but at least kind of maybe distance themselves. Maybe there's more here than I don't know. Or I always wonder how much of a difference that makes, you hear when leaders turn or an evangelical decides they don't believe in Jesus anymore. How much of effect does that make when the anti-Semitism is a religion of hatred? Do you turn people? They just, you know what I mean? Or do they write them off? Someone is Islam. We killed this person. I'm just curious.
Yeah,
you have no cues or anything.
I think it's when people say, how successful are you? Well, up to a degree. If you're doing evaluations and you're looking at analytics and you're understanding who's coming and returning to your programs, et cetera, et cetera. At the same time, you also know by someone you'll meet 10 years after you had an interaction with them. And they'll tell you that actually that interaction changed their perspective and maybe even changed their life.
Yeah, isn't that amazing, by the way?
Yeah, amazing.
In my personal life, I just mean business stuff, you said something that was really wise, or a former employee or a former client at sales call, been hey, you mentioned this one tip, and I implemented it at my new company 3 years later, and it was amazing. We built this market strategy. And I was really? It was I said that? I'm sure I did. It sounds like something I would say. I don't remember it. I don't know. So I don't remember the conversation that speaks to so many people. And so I find it fascinating. Did you? What was the name of this person that, let's say, that came first?
Adam.
Say it again. Adam Elaya.
Yeah.
Would you ask him? Would you feel comfortable asking him? How do you feel those that you led and that followed you? Do you think any of them have changed their opinions based on you being able to come clean and repenting for your anti-Semitism?
Sure, I myself would be interested to know. But like I said, he's the exception rather than the rule. We generally are trying to speak to the people who are committed Zionists, because you want to empower your base and because you want them reach out to that great big 90+% in the middle who either don't know anything about Israel or don't care about Israel. By the way, them not caring about Israel is okay. We don't care about every single issue that's in the world. But what we do want to make sure is that they're inoculated against lies that they may see or the misrepresentation that they may see either on social media or in the media in general. So that's what we're trying to do. We're building a movement by building an army of educators who will then educate others. And that's how it grows. And that's how we've been successful over 2 decades.